Hello everybody, it is Tom and welcome to another video. Alright, so welcome back. You may notice that things look a little bit different. The quality of the video is not as good, unfortunately. But we do have the return of the Queer Bookshelf. It's right behind me. I'm recording from my new apartment, which, in case you did not see previous video about that, is fantastic. I love it. But yeah, so today we're trying something different with the aim of making editing a little bit easier for me, because so the way that I usually record a video, and feel free to skip this if you do not care at all how I record a video, but usually how I record a video is I record my reaction, then I record the episode of the show, then I put them both into my video editing software and piece them together, and then, you know, I go and put all the captions in and like the effects and all that stuff. But today we're gonna try recording me and the video and the episode at the same time. So yeah, I'm not sure how it's gonna go, especially in terms of like editing for copyright, because my last Heartstopper video was just battered by copyright claims, despite the fact that I edited it the way I always do. But yes, anyway, so we're gonna try it this way. We're gonna see how it works. If it works, I'm fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I always have more trouble, like my right hand, it's harder to cross my fingers than my left hand. My left hand is like, yeah, all day long. So today we are going to be watching and reacting to and analyzing episode 5 of season 3 of Heartstopper, which is entitled Winter. All right, so I'm going to switch over to okay. Now, the last time I tried to rewind to the beginning of the video, it stuck me in an ad again. So let's see if that happens this time. Maybe not. Maybe we're okay. We'll see. Okay, so this is an experiment. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, if it doesn't work out at all, we tried. Okay, let's do it. Let's watch Winter. Alright, so we start in Tori's room. This is such a good opening and such a nice glimpse of like Tori in her room. She has so many pillows. And this, oh yeah, this is the unfortunate downside that if I don't keep moving the mouse, it will pop up. Yeah. So this might be a challenge, but we'll do our best. But yeah, so we have a really cool opening here with like Tori's snow globe and Tori lying in bed staring at the ceiling with this lovely music playing in the background, sneaking into Charlie's room. And I like that the fact that she's tiptoeing suggests that she's trying not to wake him up. It makes me wonder if this is the kind of thing that they've done since they were little kids. Like maybe even Charlie, as the younger sibling, would go like crawl into Tori's bed on Christmas morning or something, but which is a nice thought. You can see all of Charlie's succulents and cacti up on the windowsill. Aww, sleepy Charlie.
What time is it?
7. I only slept for like 2 hours.
Did you guys have this problem as well when you were a kid where like on Christmas Eve you just would not be able to sleep? Like that was me. Like I would just lie in bed until like 3 o'clock in the morning and then get up at 5 and be like, hey guys, it's time to open presents. Yeah, that doesn't really happen to me anymore for Christmas, but it does happen with other things, like if there's something big happening the next day.
You worried about today?
No, I just thinking about what presents I'm gonna get.
I hope I get a soul.
I hope I get good mental health.
I hope I get a mum who can regulate her emotions.
I love this whole exchange between Tori and Charlie where like I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if this format is gonna work. It's really tricky to keep hold of my thoughts. But yeah, I love this whole exchange between Charlie and Tori where like Tori asks him if he's worried about today, and he says, oh no, I'm just thinking about what presents what is my hair doing? I don't know. And he says, no, I'm just thinking about what presents I'm gonna get, which it's clear to both of them that this is not true. Like I'm sure he is worried about today. And then they have this lovely exchange of like what presents they want to get.
I hope Dad remembers to put Christmas in the turkey.
He won't.
You won't. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
One of my favorite things about this episode is how much it shows Tori and Charlie's closeness, even while showing them a little bit at odds at certain points. But like it's great to see because they really like growing up in this kind of family. And of course, in the show, we don't have Oliver. So like growing up in this kind of environment with like the family being what it is, I imagine Charlie and Tori being kind of each other's life preservers in this situation. Like they have the grandparents who say ridiculous things. They have mom completely stressed and on edge. Julio, being Julio, but also probably not really getting involved in things as he sometimes tends to do when he's not in the car. So they have this family situation, and Tori and Charlie just like stick together through this and are kind of the only source of sanity for each other, which makes it all the more heartbreaking later when Charlie leaves Tori in this situation. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, I love their relationship so much. Charlie's just unbeatable.
Are you two getting dressed?
Yeah, in a minute.
Well, don't take too long because everyone will be arriving soon.
He's always grumpy when Grandma and Grandad are coming round.
And yet she still invites them every Christmas.
Honestly, that exchange with Jane did not seem that bad. It's definitely a far cry from the very gentle and smiling and kind version of her that we saw in the previous episode after Charlie came back from his time at the clinic. But like, she seemed very clearly stressed. And like, did you ever notice it's really easy to fall back into kind of your previous persona, or even the person who you were when you were growing up, when your parents are involved, like when you're an adult. But yeah, I can imagine Jane she's kind of forged a new path in terms of how she relates to Charlie now that he's come out of the clinic and is back with them. And like, she's learned a new way to relate to Charlie and treat him more gently and more kindly and with more compassion and empathy and love. But like, I could almost see when her parents come into the picture, there's bound to be some backsliding there. Like, I can see her easily falling back on old habits when her parents come into it, because they are so, like, such a negative force. This episode, I think, makes it so clear where Jane gets some of her tendencies. It's interesting to me to see a family situation where the kids don't even want to see the grandparents. Because in my family, it was so much the opposite. Like, I loved my grandparents. My grandparents were such a force of like kindness and warmth, and like going to their house. We went there every week, and then we went there on holidays, and it was always just such a nice environment. So it's such a shame that Charlie and Tori have to deal with having such not great grandparents. Though I guess Julio's parents are better, but anyway, yeah. And throughout this whole episode, it's so interesting to see the difference between the Spring household and the Nelson household. Like, just in terms of like the warmth of the lighting, the warmth of the colors, the warmth of the decorations. Like, there's people having fun, talking, music playing. Like, it's such a stark difference. It's Henry. Oh my gosh, Henry is so freaking cute. Henry even has a little sparkly bow tie. Oh. Mood, Charlie, mood.
Henry says hi. Say hi, Henry. Happy Christmas, and I love you too. I know you've been stressed about today. Just if it gets too much, there's a little guy here who needs hugs.
It's nice that in this moment of like, where poor Charlie is just that smile, practicing like your family appropriate smile in front of the mirror is so real. Like, knowing you're going into a situation where you're gonna have to fake it the whole time and like pretend to be like, yeah, hi, very relatable. But it does seem like the exchange with Nick kind of gives him the strength that he needs to move into what is coming.
You're still looking a bit skinny, aren't you? I thought you were getting all that mess sorted out.
These grandparents are just oh my god. Chanel, go away. These grandparents are just the worst. All that mess. Also notice that Charlie is wearing one of Nick's shirts, which, he often wears Nick's clothing, but like, I can just see that on this day of all days, he needed to feel like he had some of Nick with him to get through the day.
Toria, why did you cut all your hair off? Let's get you a drink. Hey, Mum.
Yeah. So there'd better be champagne. None of that cheap stuff from last year. Yeah. So the grandparents. Oof. Yeah, they are objectively terrible people. I'm sure there's some redeeming qualities there, but like in general, awful. And it's interesting to see how Jane reacts to them, because like it seems like she's kind of torn between her current reality and her previous reality in terms of, you know, how she relates to her children and people in general. She's learned a lot through what Charlie's been through and like being there for him and all that's happened. And yet here is this force from her past of negativity. So like I think it's really clear that Jane is still suffering from a lot of trauma at the hands of her parents and does not know how to deal with them now. Instead of standing up for her children to her parents, she distracts. She like moves them out of the way. So she's not doing nothing, but she's not doing as much as she could. It does make me feel really bad for Jane in terms of what she had to deal with as a kid and a teen and now as an adult. Having these toxic parents and yet not being able to stand up for herself in front of them, but also not even being able to stand up for her children in front of them. I mean, she's clearly doing her best, but it's, yeah. I think we can understand a lot about Jane's character based on this episode. Oliver!
Big.
Oh,
Merry Christmas.
what the?
Merry Christmas.
What did you get?
And Julio's just like, oh my god.
It's okay if you're feeling stressed. Jeff said that was completely normal.
Yeah, so we have Julio being kind of a calming presence in amongst the chaos and like taking Charlie aside to the quiet space of the kitchen to have a word with him and like try to do what he can in this situation. Because it's a shame because like neither Jane nor Julio are the type to speak up in these kinds of situations. Like Jane normally would speak her mind, but can't in front of her parents. And Julio is very much a like, can't we all just quietly get along sort of background guy. Like he prefers to take someone to a quiet space like a car, or in this case the kitchen, and have a nice heart to heart. You know, like he's always being supportive but quietly, and he's not the type to stand up to the grandparents, and Jane is definitely not going to do it. So it's just unfortunate that this is the situation that Charlie and Tori find themselves in. But Julio is doing his best. Jane in her way is also doing her best. Good for you, Charlie. It's very clear that this is obviously a very challenging situation. Like, being confronted with a large meal has got to be challenging for Charlie at any time, but being confronted with a large meal in the company of so many other people, all of whom apparently know about his eating disorder and are also kind of awful in their own different ways. Oof, it's got to be tricky. But he's doing it. Like, he's managing, which is awesome. Yeah, so another lifeline message from Nick. This time to the group chat.
You need to tell us about your boyfriend. What's his name?
Nick.
I do think it's nice that the cousins are, you know, asking polite questions about Charlie's boyfriend. And, you know, this conversation starts off quite nice. But, yeah.
What about you, Tori? Any lovely men in your life? No.
I love this response from Tori. Like, any lovely men in your life? And Tori's just like, no.
Well, you're not missing out on much. Straight boys are the absolute worst. Let's hope this one turns out better.
He might not end up being straight.
Charlie, when did you realise you were gay?
Tori's face here. Yeah, so once again, like, these cousins are better than their dad and better than their grandparents, but still, like, the good news is, like, they are clearly not homophobic and are embracing, you know, the idea of, like, yeah, Oliver might not be straight, and it's absolutely right. He might not be straight. Who knows? He might not even be he. Who knows? But the immediate question of Charlie, invasive question about your homosexuality, and Tori's expression makes it very clear, like, this is not just a very invasive question. Not the worst invasive question that could be asked, but still. Charlie seems amused rather than like upset about it, which is good.
How's everyone doing down here? Everything okay?
Great, thanks.
I'm fine.
We're fine.
Again, I do think Jane is doing her best here. The stress levels of Jane Spring in this single dinner scene are just through the roof. She's sitting down at the other end of the table, fielding horrible comments from her parents, especially her mother. And meanwhile, she's trying to keep an eye out for any trouble going on at the other end of the table because she's very aware that this is a difficult day for Charlie and she wants to make sure it's okay for him, but she's coming on way too strong. The last thing you want when you're dealing with something like this as Charlie is to have everyone's attention on you and attention be on it. Like, he doesn't want everyone looking at him being like, oh, is he eating? And yet Jane is clearly watching for that specifically. When she comes down to that end of the table and is like, oh, how's it going down here? And is clearly like looking directly at him and at his plate. I can definitely understand why Charlie reacts the way he does. Like, he just wants to be able, as he says, to have a normal day. I don't blame Jane for this, because it's clear that she is trying to look out for him, and in her own way she's trying to, support him. She's just doing it in kind of a very overbearing and not really the right way. But I do like that Tori speaks up as well and is like, we're fine. So Tori's trying to protect Charlie in her own way as well.
Stop getting up. They're fine down there.
I think she's just worried.
Can't I just try and have a normal...
It's good also to see that Tori, in this case, does recognize that Jane is worried, and it's not that Tori's defending her exactly, but she is kind of seeing their mom's side of it here in terms of like, how she's going about it is not the best, but we understand where she's coming from, sort of thing. So, oh my god, what the fuck is this? Planters, what are you doing? Is this steampunk version? What are you doing? I'm sorry, watch Mr. Peanut in the electric state only on Netflix, now playing. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to investigate. This is horrifying. Why would you do this? Okay, back to Heartstopper. Ugh, David. Even though we're haunted by the specter of David, again, it's just very interesting, the huge difference between the two households. The Spring household is just kind of quiet and cold and subdued and like passive aggressive comments going on at the table and like awkward questions. And the Nelson household, again, aside from David, is just warm and bright and happy, and music's playing and all the colors are really warm and the lighting is really warm. It's just such a different environment, even without our dear Sarah Nelson. She's just in the other room, always.
Dad's not coming.
Maybe he will, maybe he won't.
He always says he's gonna pop in, then he never does.
Stop acting like you know everything. Ever since your boyfriend became mentally deranged, you've been acting like you're the savior of the earth.
What a dick.
Don't say that about Charlie.
I mean, I get it. Right? He wants attention. He stops eating. You have to be the hero who saves the day.
Just shut the fuck up.
I like how we have, I think that's Aunt Diane, and is it Uncle Rick? And they both hear this and turn, and then immediately turn back. They're like, oh, Nick finally told David to shut up? Not only shut up, but shut the fuck up? Great. But yeah, I talked about this in the favorite scenes of this season video, but the fact that the very first F-bomb to be dropped on Heartstopper is Nick telling David to shut the fuck up is just chef's kiss perfection. I approve of this use of the word fuck very much in this show. David should have been told to fuck off a long time ago, and I'm glad that he finally was. Yeah, what he said about Charlie, first of all, using the phrase mentally deranged, like, and like, we know that David's big sensitive point is his dad. It's very sad, and I would feel a lot worse for David if he wasn't such a dick all the time, but like, it's very clear that he idolizes his dad and really wants his dad to care about him as much as he cares about his dad. So there he is, like, just sure that his dad is going to come through, his dad is going to come see them. The last time we saw Nick and David's dad, he promised that he was going to try to do better, and it's pretty clear that that did not last long, if at all. But yeah, so there David is, like, waiting, expecting, hoping that the dad will come. And then Nick says, you know, he's not coming. And that's the thing that, like, sets David off. Like, that's his pressure point. That is the thing that will make him act, that will make him lash out. And as usual, the way that he lashes out at Nick is by insulting Charlie or their relationship. And yeah, so he uses the ridiculous phrase mentally deranged and does something that has been, like, lobbed at people with mental health issues for a long time, which is the idea that they're just doing it for attention. So much wrong with everything that he said. I'm not even sure that David believes this. He might just be saying it because he knows it'll piss off Nick, and he wants, like, it's clear he's a hurt little boy and he wants to hurt other people as well, especially Nick, because, like, Nick is so well adjusted compared to David, is essentially, like, in a good place in his life and is pretty happy with his life and who he is, has realized a lot of things about himself, is really growing into this amazing young man. And David, who is older, is just floundering. And so, you know, he wants to get back at Nick. He wants to punish him and make him hurt as well. So he lashes out with things like this. Ugh. And he just walks away looking smug. I think he's glad that he made Nick snap like that. So Nick turns to texting Charlie. You think I'm cute? Question mark. We have Isaac reading a book called Christmas Days, which I'm not familiar with. We have Isaac and his mom over here in a framed picture. But yeah, so Isaac drinking, I assume, hot cocoa out of a Christmas mug. It's looking very cozy. And stop flirting in the group chat, please.
Oh, you look handsome.
Come and use those big, strong muscles to help me move the table.
I love how we get this glimpse of how everyone else is spending their Christmases. And it's just so lovely to see how affirming Darcy's gran is with her language towards Darcy, using the word handsome specifically, talking about their big, strong arms. Speaking from personal experience, having quote-unquote masculine words directed at me feels amazing. It still does, even today. Yeah, the point is, Darcy's gran, A++, love how she is treating Darcy here.
You're gonna do wonderful things and make us all so proud.
Yeah, so we have Tara kind of fake smiling her way through her mother listing out all the things that she's done and will do, and you're gonna make us all so proud is like, oh no. Like, the correct thing to say is, we're so proud of you, not you're going to make us proud. I don't think her mom is intending to put so much pressure on her, but she really, really is. And we have Sahar. I love Sahar's guitar. He is the image from Imogen. It's just like now. Also, I love how Sahar's wallpaper is like straight out of Saved by the Bell. The continued drama of Imogen and Sahar, very interesting. Because yeah, Imogen clearly takes and sends that picture specifically hoping to hear from Sahar about how cute she looks. And Sahar at first is like, no, I'm not even doing this. And then she's like, and she does it. And Imogen just looks there's a really interesting play of emotions going on over Imogen's face where, like, she's pleased, but she's also like a little like, I don't know, what am I feeling here? Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there from Imogen's side. And Sahar's side as well. But, like, yeah, Sahar, like, Imogen is clearly her weak point. She cannot deny Imogen the gratification of saying she looks cute.
Cozy.
This is a really cool way to show us what everybody else is up to, kind of doing it through the messages that they're sending via the group text.
Enjoying the view?
What if I was?
Some might say you fancy me.
What if I do?
I wonder what we'll do.
Tao is such a dork, in a great way. I can't even watch this part.
Sorry, was that?
It's fine.
Awkward. Very, very awkward. Poor Elle. It's clear that really affected her.
How you doing anyway, Charlie?
Ugh.
Doing okay, thanks.
Can't imagine what Christmas would be like in a place like that. You just hear horror stories, don't you? White walls, straight jackets, all that.
This guy, man, like, where exactly was he picturing Charlie being? White walls and straight jackets. I have nothing else to say. Just wow.
Did you meet anyone really crazy in there?
You're not supposed to say that.
Again, with the cousins, like, they are clearly more liberal thinkers and more open-minded in general than their dad and their grandparents, but they still have some work to do in terms of, like, problematic questions. Poor Charlie.
We're just happy that Charlie's back to normal and back with us.
Back to normal is just ugh. First of all, implying that he was not normal while he was going through it, and second of all, implying that he's fixed. He's normal again. He's all fine. Everything's great. You know, just very, very uninformed, very ignorant thinking, which, you know, clearly this is someone in need of education, but it shouldn't be Charlie's job to have to educate him.
I'm gonna get a drink.
Well, he seems great. As if nothing ever happened.
This fucking guy, like, Charlie's not even out of earshot, and this guy is like, oh, he seems great, like nothing ever happened. Everything's good. Like, what the hell?
I'm sorry, Charlie. Try to ignore.
Do I just have to put up with ignorant comments from my own family?
We just need to get through the day.
Yeah, and this again makes it very clear, like, Jane's way of dealing with this is just to just get through it. Just say nothing, ignore, pretend it's not happening. And Charlie doesn't want to do that, understandably.
We'll have some tea later, but that's not for a couple of hours. How about a snack?
It's also not great that she sees that he's upset and he's already in, like, an agitated mind space. And she's like, have some food. What about some food? Would you like some food? Which, you know, is the last thing that Charlie wants to think about when he's already feeling stressed out and bad. So really bad timing here for Jane. Like, again, she's doing her best, but she's not doing it in a good way here.
Can you stop pestering about food right now?
Charlie, why don't we just go and play Mario Kart?
Yeah, and poor Tori is trying to defuse the situation, trying to, like, just get Charlie into a safer space. It does seem like she feels a bit torn here because she knows that their mom is just worried about him, but also sees that the way she's going about it is completely, like, not the right way to do it. So she's trying to just, like, get Charlie out of the situation, but it's just, she can't. There's nothing she can do here.
You only managed half your dinner, and the dietitian said that that's...
You're not helping. You're making me feel worse.
Well, I'm sorry I even tried.
Yeah, and this is unfortunate. Like, pushed to this point, Jane defaults back to her previous kind of behavior, which is defensive, angry, like, oh, I'm sorry I even tried. Okay. Like, passive aggressive. And I mean, Charlie's totally in the right here. Like, she's making him feel worse. He's telling her his honest emotions and trying to, like, express to her the level of upset that he's feeling. If I were Charlie, I would not only be upset about my relatives saying shitty things, I would be upset that my mom is not standing up for me. And that her reaction to these terrible things being said to me is just ignore it. It's clear that that's how Jane has dealt with her parents and her family through her whole life, is just ignoring it, just pushing past, just trying to get through it. She very clearly does not stand up to her mother ever, even when it's her son who is the one bearing the brunt of the negativity, the toxicity of her family. She can't break free of that. And in terms of, like, the dietitian said it's a concern if you don't eat more than half your meal, like, I'm pretty sure the dietitian meant, like, normal meals, like, regularly, not one giant stressful holiday meal. Honestly, the fact that he was able to eat as much as he did is a triumph. Like, she should be telling him how proud she is of him for managing that and for getting through this. But that's just not in her character. And she is doing her best. But it's difficult to break free of a lifetime of behaving in a certain way. Yeah, and Charlie also falls back on his usual behavior, which is like, I gotta get out of here.
I'm going to Nick's.
Can't you at least spend Christmas with me? You spend all your time with Nick anyway.
Because he treats me as something other than mentally ill.
I do too.
Ugh, I feel so bad for Tori in this scene. Obviously, spending time with their relatives is no picnic for her either. But she has spent the entire day doing her best to block Charlie from the awfulness of the relatives and to like play interference between their mom and Charlie, and like her whole day has been centered around protecting him and trying to help him through this. Like if I were Charlie, I would also want to get the hell out of there. But I can also understand that Tori, you know, she suffers too. Like this is a very bad environment for both of them. I guess like before Nick, Charlie and Tori, I imagine, would get through these holidays, get through time with their extended family by banding together, going off and doing something on, like them going off and playing video games together, them going and hiding out in one of their rooms or something like that. So the fact that now, because Charlie has Nick, he's like, well, I'm going to go spend time with Nick instead and leave you all alone in this horrible situation. That really must hurt Tori. And I also think to a certain degree that Charlie is not aware of how much Tori is also suffering from what's going on. Like, I think it's very easy to get kind of wrapped up in your own bubble of negative feelings and not notice that the person next to you is also having a really hard time and would not want to be left alone in this situation. So yeah, like I can understand both sides of it, but I do think that Charlie could have done more here to help Tori. I feel really bad for Tori in this situation.
I'll see you later.
Because yeah, she gets really vulnerable with him here, and he leaves anyway.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, and I love how this is such a parallel to when Nick shows up at Charlie's house in the rain in episode 4 of season 1. Same kind of situation of like opening the door, they're standing on the doorstep, all rainy, and like pulling him in by the front of his sweatshirt.
Where's your coat?
And where's your coat again? And Charlie just hugs him.
I had an argument with my mum.
Want to talk about it?
It's one way of talking about it. The whole family.
Merry Christmas!
Yeah, and again, such a different environment, such a different vibe.
You coming in? We don't bite, promise.
I feel awful about the fact that Tori is on her own, but I am glad that Charlie is able to come into the safe space of Nick's house and Nick, essentially, and just the instant relief and the instant like, okay, I'm safe now. This is a safe place. He doesn't have to dodge people asking him awkward questions. He can just have a nice day.
Probably a little bit big.
I don't care, I'm so cold right now. Can you turn around while I change?
Oh, yeah, of course.
They've changed in front of each other a lot for rugby and stuff, but it's very different, obviously, than like being in a room where everyone is changing versus being in the intimate space of your boyfriend's bedroom and he's looking directly at you as you change when you have body issues. So yeah, I can understand why Charlie asks Nick to turn around, but Nick seems very taken aback. But yeah, it's interesting that Charlie is changing from a Nick shirt into another Nick shirt.
You look adorable.
I look ridiculous.
Ridiculously adorable. You sure you don't want to talk about it?
I just want to have a nice day.
I like that Nick gives him the option to talk about it, is there for him, gives him what he needs in terms of like hugging him, putting him in warm clothes, telling him he's adorable because he is, but also asking him if he wants to talk about it.
Let's do that then.
And then accepting him at his word when he says he doesn't want to talk about it. Oh, Aunt Diane. And Henry! Yeah, these are holiday cards that they've exchanged, it seems, because we have like cut out Nick and Charlie with Merry Christmas, and then this very cute drawing of them touching pinkies with Merry Christmas. Adorable.
We've not kissed like that in so long.
I guess this is the first time they've had the chance to just have a makeout session since Charlie's been back. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's this scene specifically, but apparently, like, during this montage at some point, while they were recording, Kit and Joe were just, to make each other laugh, just saying the dirtiest stuff, like, most horrifying stuff to each other, which I hope the kids were out of earshot. And of course, can't be Christmas in the UK without Doctor Who. And I love that it's a David Tennant episode as well, because like I think it's the mini comics that Alice has made. Nick realizes that one of the reasons he liked Doctor Who so much was that he seriously fancied David Tennant. Love The Runaway Bride. See you in court. Okay, so Tori saying she's walking to Nick's, and again, I would feel bad for David if he was not such a dick.
Did he text you?
It's very sad because it's clear that he genuinely thought that their dad would show up. And his first question here is, did he text you? David is just a very sad, lonely, damaged little boy at heart. And it's very sad to see. And again, I would feel worse for him if he didn't lash out so much at Nick as a result of it.
You know you got a real family who actually want to hang out with you.
It says so much about Nick also that in this moment, despite the awful things that David has said and done to him for their, I assume, pretty much their entire lives, but especially recently, Nick still tries to comfort him to be like, you know, dad is awful. Like you have family here who actually are here right now and want to spend time with you. It says a lot about Nick's character that is where he goes with this. Like, he doesn't taunt David about it. He's not mean about it. He's actually very kind and compassionate.
Your dad is family.
I think family are the people who actually give a shit.
And there's Tori. I love that David sees Tori and there's this moment of like, oh shit. And then he turns and just leaves. Cause yeah, she'll fuck you up, dude.
You left me to fend for myself.
Henry. Tori was very upset before, and I'm sure she felt kind of betrayed by the fact that Charlie left, even understanding why he left. But it's interesting that she's not yelling at him. She's not like, how could you do this to me? How could you leave me? If this were any other show, like, this would have been a screaming match of like tears and crying and screaming. But Tori's just like, you left me to fend for myself with our cousins. Even in this situation where she feels kind of hurt and betrayed by Charlie, she's still treating him very gently and kindly.
Oliver's in a bad mood because no one will play Mario Kart with him, and I think Mum might be willing to apologise.
I said this in the last episode, but I love this trio. I love it when we have Charlie with Tori and Nick and bonus dogs. The two people who I would say have really made Charlie their focus. So it's always so interesting to see them together, and especially in this scene where we see them joining forces in their own gentle way to try to help Charlie and be there for him.
I worry about you all the time.
I get that you're scared of being a burden. We just want to be there for you. You have to let us.
And not just say that you're fine when you're not.
I love this so much from them. They're both being so gentle with him while telling him things that he needs to hear.
I wish we could rewind and start today all over again.
It's always New Year's Eve.
Henry.
Sorry about earlier. I don't want to do anything unless you also want to do things. I think about it, like, all the time. Not all the time. A respectful amount of time that one thinks about one's girlfriend in that way. I'm just going to stop.
I love Tao in this moment. I think the fact that Tao is like, I don't want to do things unless you want to do things. We had a similar exchange between Nick and Charlie earlier. So I love that in the show, this is the second time that we've had the expression of this idea of, I don't want to take things further if you don't want to take things further. And the idea that, like, not only is that okay, but I still want to be with you. I will still want to be with you, even if we don't go further physically in our relationship. Which I do wonder how much of that comes from Alice being on the asexual spectrum, because this is exactly what's, at least for me, as someone on the asexual spectrum, what we fear. The idea that not wanting to go further, or not being as comfortable with the physical side of things, not wanting to do it all the time even, will be a deal breaker for people who are not on the asexual spectrum. So having two very strong, sturdy relationships where one member of it says, if you don't want to do more, that's okay with me. I don't want to do anything that you don't want to do. It's great to see in these two relationships, and is very comforting for someone who worries about stuff like this.
When you put your hand there, all my dysphoria just hit me.
I love you. I love everything about you. And whatever you want to do or not do, It's okay. I still want to be with you.
Absolutely the perfect, like, the most perfect thing that Tao could have said here. This is definitely, like, I really relate to this whole situation because, like, as someone who is trans, it's very scary to think of showing your body to someone and, like, not knowing how you'll even react in the moment. Like, with Elle and her dysphoria hitting her, like, obviously that's not something that she thought would happen or was prepared for, but it did. And having someone who you trust enough to work through that with them and to trust them not to judge you or, you know, be disgusted or whatever. Like, these are the fears that trans people have, or at least I have, and it seems like Elle has as well. So yeah, it's really, really wonderful to see it represented in this way and to see, again, Heartstopper modeling how you should handle this situation, because Tao handles it perfectly. He reassures her he loves everything about her. He says whatever they do or don't do, he'll still want to be with her. Like, this is exactly textbook what you should say to someone in this situation to reassure them. So just so much respect for Tao and this scene. Yeah, Tao is such a good boyfriend. And then we have Charlie back at home and Mom clearly apologizing. Oh, Nick kind of hugging the sweatshirt that Charlie was wearing. The one cousin who does not say problematic stuff. Yeah, so we're going to stop there for now because my brain is just not working properly right now. Like, this has been a struggle. So I think we're going to cut here and then we'll do the second half at another time. I had hoped that I could do the whole episode, but I just don't have the brain power right now. But yeah, this is a really good episode, and I think it's great in terms of character development. It's great in terms of family dynamics and learning more about the different situations everyone's coming from. So I look forward to looking at the New Year's section when we come back. I hope I will be able to get some sleep sometime soon and be more coherent next time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and putting up with my long delays between videos and questionable brain power when I do manage to record. Huge thanks to our patrons who are amazing, wonderful, spectacular, fantabulous, excellent human beings. And a very special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, Kim Engel, Kent Smither, Sarah Parker Schemmelt, Courtney McAlexander, and Tanya. All right, that's going to do it for today. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever time of day it may happen to be. I'll see you next time. Okay? Bye.
When I get lost in a dream and I know I can't sleep, God damn it, I miss you.